system. How you doing?
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
This is the Heel to the Face podcast with your hosts, Jared Wicks and Brandon Icebreaker Clements. Tweet us using the handle @HeelToTheFace.
Woo! 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 Woo!
The bell is rung, so let's step in the ring with your hosts, Brandon and Jared.
Another edition of the Heel to the Face podcast. I'm K-Rock Jared. You can find me on Twitter. I'm with Brandon, the Icebreaker Clements. You can find him at Icebreaker21. And with Dustin, you can find him on Twitter at Cuse Collect. We are coming off of Wrestlemania 35, a full weekend, more than just Mania. There's a website actually that's called More Than Just Mania. But either way, we've got a lot to talk to. Not even going to put the 20-minute time limit on today because who knows if we'll actually fit the 20 minutes.
Lots to talk about.
Hopefully we'll fit somewhere around there, but either way, welcome to the show. I'm going to start things off. Let's just get simple. Right back to the beginning of the week. Let's just go chronological order. We'll start with Friday night before we start Mania and all that good stuff that happened all through the week. Friday night, your takeaways. We'll start with you, Brandon. NXT TakeOver.
Great show.
Oh, absolutely.
It was, and sorry, I know you missed out. To me, you might disagree. I thought it was the best show of the weekend.
It absolutely.
Fantastic.
Again, I didn't see the Ring of Honor Saturday night, which we'll get into. But for WWE products, it absolutely could not be topped.
Great show.
TakeOver, the brand keeps growing. I think Barclay had a record NXT TakeOver crowd of just under 16,000. They had over $4 million at the gate. The crowd was hyped the entire night. The matches were fantastic.
Well, NXT's always, when you guys say it was a great show, it's kind of like that's its expectation to be. I've never gone to a WrestleMania where the people next to me who've been at TakeOver ever say that this is better than TakeOver. Whether it be in Dallas or Orlando, everyone says TakeOver is the show of the weekend when it comes to wrestling.
Here's the thing, and we've talked about it. This is previous weeks. You were on the fence about NXT. You were like, I don't know if it's the names and this and that. I will tell you right now, that was one of the better takeovers I've seen in a while. That was
compared to other Mania takeovers.
It's up
Absolutely.
there. It's up
it's
there.
top 5.
Yeah, here's my thing. I'll just go right to the two out of 3 falls match. Gargano and Adam Cole. That match was fantastic. That to me was match of the weekend. I don't care what anybody says. That was match of the weekend. Second place for me was Velveteen Dream and Riddle. That was awesome. That was a fantastic match. It didn't disappoint. I'll be honest with you. When I was watching WrestleMania over the weekend, there were some parts where I'm like, all right, let's move on. Let's keep moving. It was a long night anyways, but I gotta tell you, I NXT TakeOver, I did not fast forward or like, all right, let's get moving. Like, I didn't want it to end. Like, the fans were even saying, fight forever. Like, they were, especially for Gargano and Cole, that was awesome. And then Undisputed Era, when they came in, you're like, here we go, Cole's gonna win the title. And then Gargano kicks out.
There was some very interesting choices. Going back to so we'll say the NXT Women's title, Baszler retained.
Yeah.
That was something that surprised us all because we really thought she was prepared for the main roster. I call her the female bruiserweight. She has that arrogance, the cockiness. She has that style of Pete Dunne. Did not expect her to retain. It was the most believable outcome. It was a fantastic match. I think she's outgrown NXT, though. Where does she go from here? You have an Asuka situation where she's not going to be beat. She's done everything that she can. She's bigger than what NXT is now, unfortunately. Let's bring her to the main roster, and she has a gauntlet of awesome contenders. Yeah. She can be thrust right into the title picture.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And overall, Velveteen Dream. I'll touch on that real quick. Velveteen Dream does what he does. He just puts on good matches. Matt Riddle, I thought he did a great job. That match was fun. And then obviously the expected outcome in the men's tag team championship match. We expected the War Raiders to win. That obviously happened, but it was still a great match. If I had to rank it, that's probably the worst match of the night. And it was still really good in my book.
Yeah, I don't know if I was wrapped up in the storytelling and emotion of it. To me, that was higher on the card. That was one of the matches of the night. But it could have been the pageantry. It could have been everything. That match really sold it for me. I really liked the combination. I liked, what's his name? Is it Hansen?
Yeah,
Hansen,
Yeah,
the way he pulled it out. I mean, he's 6'2", 305 pounds.
Yes.
He's 34,
He's so good.
34 years old. So he's definitely not young. So for that size, for him to kind of match styles with Black and Ricochet for a few spots, rather than just be that heavy-hitting brute, it was awesome. The send-off was really emotional. That Ricochet and
that was
Black
cool.
got.
That was cool.
And that goes to show you, like, I don't know how to explain it. We're very cynical being the WWE Universe. That's just naturally what we are. We're
Absolutely.
cynical people. But we also are willing to admit when you give us things that we want. So that reception that the crowd gave them, that proves that hard work, storytelling, character development will pay off. We do respond. We're not always looking to complain. We're not always looking to bitch about the product.
Yeah.
If you put on a good show and you do these simple things that we ask of you, this is how well you're received. And
Yeah,
those two earn everybody's respect watching at home on the network and in that arena.
It was
night.
electric. The whole night was electric. I mean, it was cool because, I mean, we got to see Walter, and I just want to, I fact checked. I was incorrect. It's not Australia, it's Austria.
Yeah, right in Germany, right?
Yeah, Austria. So I kept saying Australia last week, so apologize to Walter.
Well, that would work out so much for the UK Championship to have somebody from Australia that's
Well-
unrelated. You don't need to know too much about geography, but
But still, I was saying Australia, so like I was gonna do kind of like the ESPN PTI and like fact check it. So yeah, I was watching. I'm like, oh, it's Austria. I was watching. I'm like, ah, crap, I got that wrong. But I gotta tell you, I mean, I know your boy Pete Dunne. Man, we kind of saw that coming. I mean, it's been 600 plus days. As
I wasn't. I needed another 600. I wasn't ready.
I know you.
That,
I know
was
you
not
weren't.
ready. I
we'll
wanted
get to
600 more.
We'll 600 more. We'll get to Brock Lesnar in a little bit, but keep talking about Takeover.
So I mean, Walter, he did not disappoint. I thought he put on a good show. Did anyone see him at the? I think he was at Access, is what I heard from a fan of the program.
Didn't see any pictures floating around social media. I saw that Dunn showed up. Unfortunately, he wasn't signing. He was only taking pictures. So I do not regret my decision to not go down there.
Oh, yeah, that's not going.
that would have been the sole purpose. So I didn't, like I said, I didn't see Walter floating around on social media. That doesn't mean that he wasn't there.
Yeah, one of the fans of the program. He was. I think he said he was there. I don't know if it was, like I didn't get the full scoop, but I believe he was at Access with the championship. So that's kind of cool.
We're going. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Speaking of like signings, one thing I was very surprised. I had a lot of people I know went to WrestleCon, and Shawn Michaels as well as Lita and Trish Stratus were at WrestleCon, which is kind of surprising because of who they are and obviously eventually being at the Hall of Fame, that WWE essentially let them go while there's still, I understand obviously everyone at one time worked for WWE, but people like Shawn Michaels, I'm very surprised to see him at a non-WWE signing event, or Trish Stratus, because she was at the Hall of Fame on Saturday night. So for her to have involvement in WWE for the weekend and be outside of, because I think if you're inductee in the Hall of Fame, like Honky Tonk Man, he would be at a WrestleCon, but for the weekend that he's a part of a WWE, I feel like if you're going to do a signing at Access that weekend, you're not going to do a signing at that. But to the point you were just saying about, all right, we took a stop here. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's what I'll say.
Oh, going back to
Go
the
back
title
to
match.
Access. Yeah,
Yes.
go back to the match. Yeah.
With the title match, one of the things that I missed, we'll go again. I just continue to praise whether it's Triple H, whether it's everybody down in NXT, the storytelling of the match, and the selling of the match during it. Walter with the joint and finger manipulation, selling his hands the entire match. There was post photos on WWE.com of him with trainers and ice packs all over his hands. So they didn't even let the story go. Like they gave us the full span of believability. I missed the emotional send off for Dunn because we got it for Ricochet and Black, and that doesn't necessarily mean that Dunn's done in UK. So yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna. So, but still, it's the end of a 600-day reign, and I was kind of shocked when the cameras just cut away when he was in the turnbuckles, and I was waiting for that ovation because I really felt like he
deserved it. He deserved it.
Absolutely.
I mean, Pete's awesome. He's
My question is, how many times did Pete Dunne defend the championship in those 600 days?
Enough. Yeah.
Well,
I don't know exactly what the figure is, but I feel like he defended enough where, which I know we'll get to Brock Lesnar later. At least he defended it more than Brock Lesnar.
Do you think so? Actually, Brock Lesnar defended about 4 times a year. Did Dunne defend it more than that?
I think he did.
They probably average of 5.
I would say 5 or 6.
5 or 6. So
but okay,
here's
here's the difference though. Pete Dunne will still go to appearances and shows and things like that. Brock just shows up when he wants to show up. There's a difference.
I mean, that's his character, though.
And Pete Dunne was literally defending against top talent. So like as soon as Walter came in, Walter got a title shot. That was the caliber of individuals that Pete was defending his title against.
Yeah, I mean, and Brock wrestles what? Pay-per-views only, so.
So let's move on now to Saturday, a much warmer day in New York City, Sunday.
Do you want to go to Hall of Fame? You want to talk Hall of Fame?
We'll start Hall of Fame. Now, I will say this much about the Hall of Fame. So I did watch a good portion of the Hall of Fame. I don't regret my decision, even with the incident, to go to the event that I went to. But one thing I'll say, and you can take it or leave it, but you gotta find some positives. Mm-hmm. There is a positive to what happened, because what happened is because a portion of WWE being lazy. Now, we all know about the changing around of shows and trying to blackball them running the G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden and showing how lazy they were by putting NXT TakeOver in Barclays Center and then having to change the set around. They said, why change the set around? Let's not. Let's all of a sudden, for the first time ever, have the inductions in the ring. It wasn't because that was a great idea. It was because they didn't want to take the ring down and then have to reset the ring back up for Raw and SmackDown the nights after. That's why they did what they did. And because they did that, that made it a much wider open space for the Hall of Fame. And I believe that wouldn't have happened with Bret Hart if he would have been on the stage, because the only way he would have gotten to Bret Hart is directly through the wrestlers. There wouldn't have been openings like there was. You wouldn't have a back attack like you saw when you were watching. There was wrestlers and fans behind and to the sides. It was much more wide open. When I'm on the stage, what's behind me is a stage. There's no people behind me during the traditional Hall of Fame
people
ceremony.
behind Gorilla. That's pretty much.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have my back to anyone. So I'm not saying that it was a positive what happened. It looked pretty bad, because the one thing I noticed about this Hall of Fame is I've gone to Hall of Fames, and one thing about the WWE Hall of Fame that they remind you when you go to the show, and even says on a lot of the tickets, I don't know if it says it anymore, is about your behavior at the event. Meaning the original Hall of Fame tickets, I don't know if they say this anymore, actually state business attire, please. And when you go to the Hall of Fame, whether it be Todd Phillips or Byron Saxton, whoever in the past, they come out before the Hall of Fame comes on and they make many notices that catcalls or inappropriate chants will not be tolerated at this event. And there's even signs on the door when you go into the Hall of Fame, again, from going, that say that this is not a professional wrestling event. This is a WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. Your behavior at this event is, and they have a whole list of no catcalling, no woohooing the women, no any of that stuff will be tolerated tonight, and the security is told exactly that. And when I watched the Hall of Fame, I noticed there was a lot more chanting, there was a lot more people yelling out than I've noticed in years past.
I was gonna say because
and that definitely
Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson were getting the whistles all the whole time.
Yeah.
It was kind of the.
So I didn't like that. I felt like that took away, and obviously then the fan running in and attacking Bret Hart.
Here's my thing.
It goes to setup. It was an arena setup. It didn't have that ceremonial feel like the stage and everything else does. They gave
Hear
it
me
the
out
arena
on this
feel.
though. I like the fact that they had it in the ring. You want to know why? They did all their careers. How they got to the Hall of Fame was done in the ring. So for me, the way I
think like baseball should be they should be on a diamond when they get their ceremony.
Wrestling's different. Wrestling's a different animal. To me,
I understand what you're saying, but
I thought the setup was cool. I liked that it was different. I get.
I would have been fine if it was different in the sense of it was different by them trying to be different, not by being lazy. It was only in a ring, not because they thought it would be cool looking.
They took down one of the rings. They made it look nice. I thought it looked fine. To me, the whole attack with Bret Hart getting tackled and Natalia taking the fall. I mean, yes, it probably wouldn't have happened under the old Hall of Fame and this and that. But let's be real. That that person, he got lit up. So I mean, at the end of the day, nobody got seriously hurt, thankfully. And I don't know. I think there's conflicting reports. I haven't gotten the final answer. I don't know if maybe you guys have seen it. Who was which wrestler or former wrestler popped the individual in the face at the end that knocked him out? Someone said it was one of the Hart family members. Someone said it was Dash Wilder.
I saw
Davey Smith Jr. got him.
Was it Davey?
First in the ring.
I saw Braun Strowman down there.
Yeah, Braun Strowman came in towards the end. First in the ring was Ronda Rousey's husband. He was the one in the pink sport coat.
Yeah, Travis.
He was the one that delivered most of the blows as soon as he entered the ring.
Good.
Second in was Shane, which Shane's a real one, man. That's the billionaire boy. Like,
Shane's a black belt too.
So he got right in there. And then was it Dash Wilder from the Revival was the one that hit the uppercut that
Yeah, that's
KO'd
what
him
it
at
was.
the end.
That's
Yeah.
what I was like. I think
that was
Dash.
Dash Wilder.
But
So.
it looked like Dash. I saw the footage. Like it was all over the internet. So I'm looking at it, like the slow mos and different things, and I see the uppercut. And, like you can see the guy's lights kind of go whoop. I mean, I'm just glad Bret Hart's okay, Natalia's okay, everybody's okay. I think the good thing that came out of it is if they do the setup like they did this time, they're gonna have more security. I think they're gonna be more cautious next time because obviously there was
and you know why I feel that the setup will probably be the same. Just because next year's SmackDown is going to be on a Friday night. That's how it's going to change starting with Survivor Series. These weekends are going to go starting with SmackDown instead of ending with SmackDown.
Weird.
Because SmackDown's going to be live, so it's already been announced with Survivor Series in Chicago that the Allstate Arena is going to have SmackDown on Friday take over the Survivor Series and the Raw after. So
Okay.
that's how it's going to go with SmackDown start. So they're not going to take down... Obviously, with NXT for Survivor Series,
So
it'll
what
be
are they
different. But
gonna
next year, WrestleMania,
What's
it's
gonna
going to be
be-
SmackDown,
yeah.
Hall of Fame. I don't know what they're going to do with Takeover. That's going to be a good
It's
question.
gonna be a logistical nightmare. Sounds like already.
Yeah,
I mean,
because they're going to have SmackDown, Takeover, and Hall of Fame in the same weekend. I don't know if they move Takeover to Thursday night.
or would they move the Hall of Fame?
They
Thursday night?
might tape SmackDown. We might get a pre-recorded SmackDown done on a Tuesday or done double duty on like a Monday. Who knows?
Yeah, that's
So-
possible. I mean, realistically, I could see that. I could see potentially maybe Hall of Fame on a Thursday.
And
Air it on USA Network or
Here's the
something.
thing.
Or however they gonna
Which
do
they
it.
did. They aired it after Raw. I
Yeah.
mean, I know it was a replay, but I mean, as soon as Raw went off there, they replayed it.
Yeah.
on
Now, see,
USA.
I'm not saying that it's easy to stay until Tuesday night for any of these events, but I'll say
Oh, who you kidding? You do it.
But
anyways.
what I'll say is that going to like a go home show, I'd rather if you go to WrestleMania weekend or Survivor Series or SummerSlam or any of these weekends that you get these shows after than the show before. I'm not like it feels kind of weird to go to like the go home SmackDown and then SummerSlam the next night, then in reverse. It'd be weird, because that's the whole point of like staying for the Raw after Mania. If they did it in reverse, where you went to the go home Raw and then Mania, it's not the same, and that's kind of what would be with SmackDown. You're going to go to the go home SmackDown at Mania weekend and then go to Mania.
It would to me if
And I do definitely think that they should pre-tape it because it keeps the integrity of WrestleMania weekend.
just think of it this way: it's gonna instead of being Friday through Monday, or Friday through Tuesday, it'll be Thursday through Monday. That's what I think is gonna happen. You're switching your day
I'm
up
not saying
one
they're
day.
going to, but I like the idea of them taping the SmackDown ahead of time because of the fact that I like the prestige of the wrestlers wrestling far in advance. Like it's a Super Bowl. You have the week off before
Yeah.
the Super Bowl because you want the build-up. I don't want to see if Daniel Bryan or anybody's in the WrestleMania main events. I actually don't want to see them wrestling like that weekend. I don't want to see them at house shows. I want to see them not there because you want the build-up. You want Daniel Bryan to wrestle or to do whatever on Monday and be done, and then come to WrestleMania on Tuesday and do all his meet and greets, his make-a-wishes, and kind of give him a break before Mania. Not just for his health, but you don't want to see them wrestle.
If anybody can find a way to give us more content than what we need and shove it all into one weekend, it'll be the WWE.
Oh, of course.
We can get 25 hours of wrestling from them in a 24-hour
I mean, shoot,
period.
what do we get,
They
seven
know
and
how
a
to-
half on
They know how to
Sunday?
dole out content.
Seven and a half
But I
hours?
don't, like I said, I'm fine with watching wrestling, but I don't want to see the guys in. That's kind of why I used to like the Hall of Fame on Saturday. When it was originally on Saturday, then they moved it to Friday so that they could do the NXT setup, and then moved it Saturday this week. But I liked it originally on Saturday because I liked the day essentially before G1 Supercard and all these other things came to town. I liked the idea when I went to WrestleMania weekend, let's say in Dallas, that I may have gone to wrestling on Friday night, but on Saturday I did no wrestling, including a WWE event. Like the Hall of Fame is not a wrestling event because it's just nice to take a step back before what obviously is like a 20-hour show. So
Yeah.
the night before a 20-hour show, you like the idea, again, it goes into the bye week. The bye week for Super Bowl for fans is not to get you, you're not going to be injured, you're not a football player. It's for you to be able to take a step back and to really get ready for the big event instead of rushing right into it. And that's kind of what I like in wrestling. I like the night before I'm going to be at a long wrestling show, that all the wrestlers are there not wrestling. I don't want to see, the wrestlers the night before performing. I want to see
like
them,
it broken up.
I like it broken up. I like to have, it's like tailgating before a show. It's like you like the idea of getting there ahead of time and having the talk about it. That's what the 6 hours of pregame is for the Super Bowl. You like all the talk. You like all the hype. And that's what I like about the Hall of Fame the night before. You know, they put the camera on The Miz, they put the camera on Shane McMahon. They really hype up the next night's event, and they let them kind of step away. It's like the NFL honors the night before the Super Bowl. It's a nice way to everyone get out of their uniforms and to really kind of
dress up, look nice.
Yeah.
You know.
And then when you
Clean
leave,
up.
because then when you walk out of the Hall of Fame,
Your favorite Austin T-shirt, yeah.
Yeah.
but it's nice when you walk. It's when you walk out of the Hall of Fame. It's nice to walk out of the Hall of Fame and go, all right, now I'm ready. Tomorrow, Mania, let's do this.
And actually, I want to make a quick note. Dustin, I don't know if, I mean, the listeners can't hear, but on the video, he is wearing a Hitman Hart attire today, so I have to say props to you on that. So well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now I want to get to Ring of Honor, the
so
super card.
New
I wanna get
Japan
your thoughts.
Wrestling, New Japan
I didn't-
Wrestling / Ring
we-
of Honor
Dustin,
G1
we
super
didn't watch
card.
it, right?
I didn't watch it.
Yeah, I didn't catch
all
it.
I saw was the fallout of Enzo and Cass with
Just-
the invasion.
That's all I got.
So
Okay.
it
So,
just
Jerry, give us a wrap.
it just keeps getting bigger. The supercard started actually at WrestleMania 21, I want to say. The Ring of Honor started doing these supercards. It's funny because I went to a Ring of Honor show WrestleMania 23 weekend back when this was just the only thing that came to town that wasn't WWE. WWE didn't even have access to WrestleMania 23. There was the Hall of Fame, there was this Ring of Honor, there was Mania, and then I think the Raw after Mania wasn't even in Detroit. So this was something I could do because Hall of Fame tickets back then, this was like the third or fourth Hall of Fame, hard to get. They were in theaters, which again, I would love if they do that. They need to do that. They need to go back to some theaters, maybe Radio City Music Hall, something like that
That's
for the
always
Hall of
good,
Fame.
yeah.
You know, again, add that prestige to it, but now it's about money. But that
course.
back when it was in theaters, in the Fox Theater in Detroit, I think it was similar to the Landmark we have here, and that was really when they stress business attire, no catcalls, because it's a nice theater, only fits 3,000 people, and the tickets were very expensive. So I went to Ring of Honor for $25, got tickets at the show. And it was like going to an indie show. It was really cool, but it was essentially like going to an indie wrestling show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it grew to then going to last year's show, which was at the University of New Orleans Arena, which at the time was the biggest Supercard 12. 8,000 people filled up the New Orleans Arena outside of the city limits for Kenny Omega versus Cody Rhodes for your main event. And then obviously blew up to this year where New Japan Wrestling and Ring of Honor kind of came in on an event for Madison Square Garden, which originally was supposed to have Kenny Omega, but either way, a great show. I mean, a full Madison Square Garden. I think that's what's really cool about all this.
Wait. Was it sold out?
It was sold out.
Nice.
So, and
Nice.
what's kind of cool is they even added that to the marquee. So people in New York City who are walking by, because here's the thing, Madison Square Garden is right in the middle of the city,
Yeah.
and you don't know. It's not like going to an event anywhere else. You don't know when you are standing right outside of Madison Square Garden that there's an event going on. I have been to Madison Square Garden when there's Knicks games that are sold out, and it doesn't make the outside of the arena look any different. It's
Makes sense, yeah.
just crazy. There's so much going on in New York City that you have to be in the arena to actually know what's going on. The restaurants across the street are full, and all the streets are full when these shows are going on. And I mean, there was a Rangers game going on Friday night, and I was at the arena or the restaurant literally across the street. Where out the window I could see Madison Square Garden. The place was full, and people were, oh, there's a Rangers game tonight. You have to actually be. You don't even notice on the street what's going on in the garden. It's not like here when you're outside the Carrier Dome. You're only outside the Carrier Dome before an event. If you're going to the event, when there's not an event, it's silent. No, it's always just as busy.
It's New York City. What do you expect? It's the big city.
So it'd be nice for the people that could see the marquee. It said sold out, New Japan Wrestling. It was really awesome. And when you go inside, again, full sold out. I had an upper deck seat kind of corner where I couldn't see the stage too much. But I think it's just really awesome as a wrestling fan to see this. And the fact is, the setup that they had, if we go back to WrestleMania 20, which is one of the biggest WrestleManias of our lifetime, Madison Square Garden, WrestleMania 20, the setup was probably the same. I mean, when it comes to presentation, the same as a WrestleMania, a non-WWE event. You didn't feel like you were at an indie show. Mm-hmm. You felt like you were at a WWE event or bigger. This wasn't secondary. This wasn't, like the underground
It was
nightclub
like the
wrestling.
event.
Yeah, it was like, you didn't know the difference.
That's cool.
The presentation, I mean, they had the video
There's
screens.
such a huge resurgence in everything professional
Yeah.
wrestling. Now's the time to capitalize and be a fan. WWE's bigger than ever. You have AEW coming up in October,
I know, I can't wait.
Which Jim Ross promised that it's going to be a network we all know. So not only is it
It's not gonna be
going
Pop
to be,
TV.
it's not going to be a Pop TV or even a
No,
Viceland. So he's saying it's going to be a well-recognized network. Now you say the same thing. Is this the
What do you-
supercards getting bigger?
What do you
and bigger?
think? What do you think it'll be? Any guesses on what network it is? I mean, obviously we have no idea at this point.
I think
anyone-
like maybe like the CW.
That's what I was going with.
Yeah, I was gonna say CW, one of those.
I know
I'm
that
okay with that.
he's a smart enough. I forget his name. The owner of the Jaguars.
Con.
Yes, I know that Khan's a smart enough businessman to know that he's going to want multiple people to have access to this.
Yeah.
So multiple geographical areas to be able to tune in and watch this.
Could you see it on? Do you think realistically? Could you see it on like a TBS, a TNT, anything like that? Possibly.
I like CW. I like
You think
something like a
CW 's
CW.
What do you think, Jared? CW.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it on
Yeah, I mean,
TBS. that doesn't seem crazy
TBS
out of the
TNT
realm.
is not. I mean, it's. I mean,
Yeah.
TBS TNT are on a lot of different. I mean, a lot of people are not. They're cutting the cord, so it's on like Hulu. Yeah, Sling TV. So it's like you got it on multiple platforms. I mean, this is a great time. I mean,
Things are blowing up.
yeah,
I mean,
it's awesome.
from my side of like something that like I bring here is obviously like the collectible or wrestling figure side.
Yes.
Mattel, down at Wrestlemania Access, obviously Mattel comes in and they have prototypes and examples of figures that they have laid out that they're doing the entire year. Mattel's revving up for a giant year with figures. LJN, which we talked about the first time I came on,
Yep.
there's a resurgence. They're back. So it's just everything encompassing pro wrestling is blowing up.
Yeah,
it's a
moving.
great time to be a fan.
So yeah, it was awesome at Madison Square Garden. I mean, this wasn't like they rented it out, but it got, like shrunk the building, put curtains up, did that kind of thing. This
It was
felt
a
like
full
a
arena.
Madison Square Garden event. This felt,
That's awesome.
and it's probably,
Yeah.
and I love, you know what I love, and you get this WrestleMania weekend. To people who are not wrestling fans, they have this conception of what wrestling is and who still watches wrestling, like the workers, the concessionaires, the security, and it's just awesome. Every time I go to WrestleMania, you see the surprise on their face because they have no idea. They hear wrestling's coming to town. Wrestling comes to every town. WWE comes here. WWE comes everywhere across the country. So they already have this preconceived notion of what wrestling is going to look like. There's going to be New Japan Wrestling. What is that? It's not WWE. Oh, yeah. You know what? We got 20 security guards. You three can go home. We're not going to need you. This isn't a WWE event. Sorry, I thought it was. And then when this crowd comes in, the look on the concessionaire's face, it goes, wait, where's John Cena? John Cena's not even here. This isn't a WWE show? What? There's this much wrestling fans in the world. I mean, I love
Absolutely.
going to, like, whether I was in Dallas, I remember I was at a restaurant beforehand. And I remember the waitress saying, like, because they cut the staff. They're like, it's a Sunday, shouldn't be that busy. WWE's come to town, but they come to town all the time. And, you know what I mean? What's the difference? And then they got swamped. And I remember the waitress, like, telling people we weren't expecting this. Like, and talking to other non-WWE people, like a woman at the bar and goes, can you believe this? This is crazy. And she's, I know. What is going on? Like, this is insane. Like, because it's just
wrestling fans.
Yeah, because they don't. It's not the Super Bowl. They don't think of it like that. So when they have
It's our
this
Super
backup
Bowl,
and
though.
they see all these, like they were talking to each other. I heard some lady at the bar talking to the waitress going, yeah, there was a guy like with a driving a car. He had like a flag from like Germany. Don't tell me people came here from like Germany. And they're like, yeah,
Yes.
they did. That's crazy. But overall, the G1 Supercard at Madison Square Garden, a good show overall. I was entertained. The Enzo cast thing is very unique. So it was a time where there was a lot of run-ins going on. I personally didn't really notice it was them. So I went back and I watched the show on the internet, and one thing I noticed that can add to the fact that maybe they weren't supposed to be there, they didn't put the cameras on them. When they came out, they were at the announce table, and they were talking about the upcoming match. The one thing is they all had their attention on it. If you go back and watch it, they didn't do a good job like WWE would do. You could see him turning around, and you could see him stuttering and stopping. They're going, Kota Ibushi. I'm sorry, let me get back to what I was saying. There's something going on behind us. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Whether it be Colt Cabana and Kevin Kelly, who were doing the announcing, and Ian Riccaboni, who's I'm surprised he's not going over to AEW. He's a big friend with all those guys.
Yeah.
But they were showing that they were preoccupied, and the way that the announce team was set up, it was like old WCW, where they were facing away from the ring, and you could see the ring behind them, and you could see Big Cass sticking his hands up in the air, flipping people off, and obviously being 7 foot tall. You could see him in the background while they were like on the announce team, not talking about it, but like you could see him and security kind of going back and forth right behind them while they were like looking behind their shoulders and kind of wondering what's going
That's
on.
interesting.
And when they noticed that he was in the shot, they put the camera on the scoreboard. So again, I don't know exactly to what play that this was,
Yeah,
but
but
one thing I noticed, it took them a while to get him out of there.
Yeah, but here's
That's
the thing, though.
that's the one thing I noticed that definitely seemed where it could have
It's
a
a work.
scripted element.
To me, it sounds like a work. I think they're making an extra effort. Like, oh, I don't think they're really supposed to be here. Like,
But they never mentioned them. They didn't like.
Yeah, but
they
it could be
didn't
a work.
They didn't do the traditional like, who is that? Like the Hogan thing back in the day.
They let the fans do the work. I mean, I still think it's a work.
Yeah, it's
but
definitely
they let the fans do the promoting for them with cell phone. Everything that I saw was a cell phone
Yeah, it was
video
all
from
cell phone,
somebody
yeah.
at the event.
That's all. And like that was my takeaway. Like we were saying earlier, that's the only thing I watched from because it was a busy weekend anyways and all the wrestling going on. That's the only thing I remembered from what I saw.
And I was
on the show.
split down the middle when the wrestlers tried to get them back over the guardrail. There was some really hard hits that like it looked like a bar fight. It looked like you interrupted our show, get out of here, and almost like when the fans slid in and attacked Brett.
Yeah.
You clearly could see from what cell phones captured that this was a serious moment. There was moments of this incident at G1 that made it look like it was a serious incident, and they once again did something they shouldn't have. But then you saw kind of a couple of wrestling, like chop shots on the back, where you're like,
Yeah.
all right, if this was real, that
Real
was,
punches being thrown. Yeah, that kind of thing.
It was. I think to me it was a great work by New Japan and Ring of Honor.
They got people talking about it.
Yeah.
So on a WrestleMania weekend, they were headlining. They
Social
snuck their
media.
way into. They worked their
And
way
with
into the
everything going on in
city.
AEW, they need some names.
Hey, let me ask you this. I mean, let me throw this to you guys. What a night! I mean, Twitter was, you got Bret Hart, and then you had the Enzo and Cass. Great night on social media to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Seriously, fantastic.
So overall great show. Ended around 11:30. I want to say it was about a 4.5 hour show.
That's not bad. That's good enough.
It might not. It might.
8 hours.
Yeah, it was about 4 hours. 7:30 it started. Apparently there was a 40-minute battle royal before the whole thing started. I'm looking at that right now online. I got in there at 7:30. Got my tickets last minute. Got in there at 7:30 right on the dot. Like I said, I was out of there. It's about 4 hours and 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
Good matches. Matt Taven became the new Ring of Honor champ, beat Marty Scurll and Jay Lethal. Amazing ladder match those guys put on. And Okada, who is famed for us through Kenny Omega matches and stuff at Wrestle Kingdom, beat Jay White, who, even though he was the New Japan Wrestling guy, he's kind of somebody who fits into like the Bullet Club, kind of, because he's an American, not the traditional Japanese guy. And Ibushi versus Naito, who took on Jericho at the last Wrestle Kingdom, put on a great match for their Intercontinental Championship. There was some, I guess every other match kind of had stars. I mean, you had and then you had a few matches where you didn't recognize guys, and then people like Bully Ray came out and Silas Young. So you had a mix of definitely some people that you would definitely recognize. I feel if it was just a straight up New Japan show, it might have suffered to some of the American audience like myself who doesn't follow it just as closely. But being a mixed show. And what's nice about these is kind of like UFC. I don't watch UFC on a weekly basis. I watch the pay-per-views. That's kind of what I do with Wrestle Kingdoms or New Japan. I just watch the big events, and you can do that because the wrestling is good enough. It's like TakeOver. You don't need to watch NXT on a weekly basis. You just watch the takeovers, and you're entertained, and you just know the people through that. You don't need necessarily the storylines because the matches are good enough.
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah. So we move on to Sunday, WrestleMania Sunday, MetLife Stadium. $40 to park in the lot, but either way, made it in there.
Hey, I called that right too because I got a text.
Yeah.
He's like, how much is it? How much do you think I paid for parking? I literally said 40.
Oh,
Right on the money.
So
I mean, it's New York City, so
Everything's
it's the money.
expensive there.
I
How much
go
is? I gotta ask you, how much were concessions, by the way? There you go.
So concessions. What was nice is that I wish I knew this ahead of time. So I was planning on sneaking some stuff in. Found out didn't even need to do that. You're allowed to bring in unsealed drinks and food as long as you put it in a clear bag, which you have to bring a clear bag to all WWE events now if you don't know that. They sell them at WrestleMania. They sell the clear
Of course they do.
bags. So I actually have a few of those, and the people I go with get those because sometimes the females have purses. So a lot of the significant others I've gone with have those WrestleMania clear bags. It's like the NFL policy.
Yeah.
But as long as it's in the clear bag that you have to bring in anyways, you're allowed to bring in drinks and
So can you
candy.
can you do like a Ziploc bag?
Yeah, there were some
Cool.
people who brought Ziploc bags and it looked like they were going to the airport.
Nice.
They had like the
Cool.
Ziploc bags with a bottle of water. So apparently you can't just bring in the water by itself. It's got to be then in something, which is strange because they had stuff in Ziploc bags when they were bringing a bottle of water, but they would just put it in a Ziploc bag and then bring it in.
That's interesting.
I'm not sure why, but the concessions, I mean, were not outrageously different. I think it was $10 for the souvenir cup with the soda, $5 for the cup by itself without a soda. Beer was about a cheap beer. They actually had cheap beer, and I think it has
How much
to do
was a cheap beer? How much?
$6.
That's not too bad.
And
No,
then-
not at all.
But it was like
I've been at concerts where they're like $9.50.
But they had,
so-
Oof.
but most of the normal price beers and stuff were about $12. I think chicken tenders and fries were like $14. I mean, it was just typical.
Yeah,
Speaking of prices, I was snooping on Forbes.com and I looked some stuff up. 35, they are now ranked number 3 for overall attendance, which was right around that 82,000 mark.
Yes.
The average ticket price
It's got to be the highest gate.
That it is. That includes resale. The average ticket price was $929, and then again that includes like taking into account like TickPick, StubHub, so resale value. And then the live gate was 16.9 million. They did.
Yeah. But you know, one
New York
thing.
City.
Wow.
One thing you got to take away from that
Absolutely. Oof.
is they didn't put the $1 million set in like they did last time at WrestleMania when they were in New York City. They kind of cheapened out there. I mean, you probably saw more graphics at home. I watched a lot of WrestleMania just like you guys did on the screens because my view was actually obstructed by the setup over the ring. I was not behind the screen. I was facing the screen, but with the setup over the ring, it kind of blocked the main entranceway. So I didn't get to see many of the entrances. I did pull up my phone and put it on the network a few times to see like the Finn Balor entrance because I could see them once they come down about halfway down the ramp because they were coming towards me, but I couldn't see them until they were about halfway down the ramp.
Weather was on your side.
Yeah, I mean the weather was fine.
Yeah.
I got a decent deal on the tickets. I got them a day before from somebody who works for ESPN down there, who just wasn't going to be in town. Everything worked out. They weren't fake tickets or anything like that. It was such a person who actually. This is what was nice about it. So I met the person, and with New York City and having the issues I've had before, he actually said just pay the down payment, and then once you go, pay me the rest of the money, kind of thing, to really guarantee that these were good tickets.
Fair enough.
You know,
Yeah.
so it worked out great in that aspect. They were real, everything worked out great for the tickets. Got a much cheaper price, paid pretty much what I wanted to pay, about $230 a ticket, which is like much lower than the average price of $900.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you're
fact.
factored in that average because 200 is still considerably high for a partially obstructed view.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I mean the tickets
Yeah.
probably were face valued at like when they went on sale about $100 or $110. The problem is though, but
that's not bad.
they sold out immediately, and this was back in October when they went on sale. November when they went on sale. So and they were cheaper than anything that was on StubHub. Everything else on StubHub I looked even the day of the show just to make sure that I got a decent deal. An hour before the show, tickets were like $700.
Before we get into individual matches, I have to ask you, because I know I was exhausted from the comfort of my own home on my couch. How was the live crowd? I mean, I have my perception of certain matches or at what point they died off, but how was it?
I think right before Triple H
during
Batista,
7.5 hours.
right before Triple H and Batista, it felt like there was an ordinance that we all had to quiet down after a certain hour because the first couple hours of WrestleMania, crowd was great, lively, everything was going good, and then I want to say Triple H Batista, I mean, started to die down. We just kind of all watched it quietly.
That's funny. In my notes, that's where I pinpointed that the crowd fell asleep.
Yeah.
Was the Batista Triple H match.
That's
It was
when I
still a
think,
good match,
and it was
too.
around there that people started doing the wave. I guess they didn't get any beach balls in this year, but it's kind of the equivalent of last year. Right before the main event, the beach balls were getting the big ovations. It'd be funny because you watch WrestleMania 34 last year in New Orleans, you'll hear cheering at weird parts of the match, and you'll hear booing, and when no moves are going on, and it's because a beach ball is out, that's where the cheering is.
Yep.
Security stole the beach ball and popped it, that's where the booing is.
Yeah.
Another beach ball reemerged, that's where the cheering is. And that's kind of what you saw here with Batista Triple H, like the cheering was based off of the wave, the booing was based off of people stopping the wave. That kind of thing.
What did you think? I mean, since we're on that match, I mean, I thought it was a decent match.
Yeah, I had no complaints about the match. Obviously, I think the match of the night was probably Kofi and Daniel Bryan. I think that was probably the most entertaining back and forth match of the night.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm with you. Well,
my only problem with WrestleMania being so long, and well, I have a few problems with WrestleMania being as long as it is, but one problem I guess I have is that I feel like at the end, because I was texting you, I feel like they rushed things. The matches from like 11 to midnight really felt like they were trying to be rushed because they realized we still got 4 matches left and it's already almost midnight. And I just felt like they were quicker, they were rushing the entrances. They didn't get treated properly like a match. Let's say, the Battle Royal. I mean, the Hardy music played forever while they were playing packages, and then we skipped to 11:30 while they're shooting out Finn Balor and Bobby Lashley as quick as they can. So I felt like as the night went on, the matches were getting shorter, including the main event.
oh yeah, it was 7.5 hours total.
Yeah.
That was-
Triple H had my all-time favorite WrestleMania entrance.
That was your all-time. I mean,
topping HBK's zip line at WrestleMania. I enjoyed
Well,
it.
Triple H
This
always puts
weekend?
on my
this weekend.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Triple H always puts on my favorite entrances. I would
every year.
say my favorite Triple H entrance. I mean, it's hard. I don't want to say this is my favorite. I really like the one from WrestleMania 22 where he came out as Conan the Barbarian. I really liked WrestleMania 33 in Orlando where he came out with the police the police motorcade.
That was cool.
He's had some great.
You know
ones.
what? Actually, you know what?
I do like the one.
You know,
I do like the one on Sunday.
Kind of getting into it. You know what actually might be my favorite, and it's probably not a lot of other people's favorite because it was a WrestleMania that I don't think a lot of people enjoyed. 32, with all the people with the skull mask and Stephanie McMahon up on the throne.
Yeah, I do.
That
Like,
was-
I do like.
And
that.
everyone who had the
He's had
championship
I
belt.
do like. I
He's
think.
had some epic ones.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say. What I mean, overall, I mean, you're the match Kofi with.
I mean, I
Daniel
don't think
Bryan
we need
was
to go
pretty
in
good.
match by match.
No, I mean.
Oh, okay.
My takeaway. I mean, I'll go like this. I'll go with the top three matches of the night. I'll go number one. Best match that I thought of the night was I honestly really enjoyed AJ Styles and Randy Orton. That was my favorite match of the night.
Yeah, that was a decent match. A lot of people complain. I lucked out that I didn't have a problem with the lights.
I was one of the complainers.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a mid-card SmackDown match.
See, I liked it.
I loved the build-up. I loved everything because we had this indie versus pro feel. We had this legend versus, rookie in a WWE sense. It was, you were looking at almost like this passing of a torch moment. And I'm not talking on an epic scale of The Rock, Hogan, something like that. But in a smaller scale, it was supposed to be a torch passing moment. And to me, it just felt, it's solid wrestling. They're
I
both
enjoyed it.
technicians.
It was great.
I just felt like it could have been a mid-card SmackDown match.
See, I loved it. I mean, that was my favorite match of the night. Number two would be I would put Daniel Bryan and Kofi as number two in my book.
So what do you put in as number one?
That was number one.
Oh, okay.
AJ, and then my third favorite match, I would probably. I thought it was a decent card
Shane
overall.
Miz?
Yeah, Shane Miz.
Shane Miz was entertaining. I mean, the problem with that is it just like we had, same with the main event, like confusing finishes. I guess, you have a good match
Yeah,
and then you have these confusing finishes. I thought the main event really fell flat. I thought, and maybe because it was the time of the night and they had to speed things along, but I thought that was going to be something. And I think it fell flat. It felt rushed. I didn't like the finish. I would rather, I understand that you don't want Ronda to lose clean because you want Ronda to still be Ronda when she comes back eventually.
I don't think it was clean either though. Her shoulders looked up.
Well, no, that's something. So it didn't look clean. That's the whole issue. They don't want it to be clean because you want her to still have a gripe when she comes back. You
Well,
don't want
yeah.
her.
Well, she's injured now.
We
so-
don't feel it was a botched spot. We feel it was a setup
it was
for
botched, yeah.
storyline
I-
continuation.
Yeah.
I
I
feel
do
that
that.
it wasn't a botched. I heard that the count was off, and Vince was not happy with the count from the referee as he started counting a little too early. But either way, I think the finish was supposed to be similar. Was
Something
pretty much
like
supposed
that.
To
So
be, yeah.
what- so-
I would rather a clean finish on Charlotte.
So let's do this.
Then-
What's your top three? I got my top three. Jared, what is your top?
I want to
three?
say Kofi, Daniel Bryan 1, Triple H, Batista 2, 3. I don't. What would be 3? I don't know. It was such a long card. Can I just say? Can I actually just say those are my 2 favorite, and then my number 1 moment was just John Cena. That just made WrestleMania.
Yeah,
After Thugonomics.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
That just made WrestleMania better.
that was
I like that better
awesome.
than any of the matches on
I
the
mean,
card.
that's the John Cena I love. I mean, I've always liked John Cena, but that's the John Cena I love. As soon as he came out, I was like, oh man, this is
But
awesome. And he dropped some bars too. Man, poor Elias, he got ripped.
While I didn't call it for WrestleMania, how about this? I called it for the original match when we're talking pretty much exactly what I said back at Elimination Chamber. That's when I picked the Iconics to win the tag belts. Now I get they gave Sasha Banks and Bayley the initial ones, but the reason, and I still stick with that, why it's a good idea is because you need to put belts on people that the belts are going to make them. You don't need the belt on Ted DiBiase or Andre the Giant or The Undertaker because those people are bigger than the belts. But people like the Iconics are not anybody without the belts.
Well, it's kind of like
That
to me,
was-
it's like Jinder. Like Jinder when having the WWE Championship.
Yeah.
Like what was it, like a year and a half, 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been 2 years.
Right after WrestleMania 2017.
Now, real quick, I wanted to get your top three because I know you disagree with my number one, so I'm curious to see what your top three is.
Okay. Before we get into top 3, I wanted to go back to the Iconics win, which I didn't think that I liked at first, but you made the point that I was chewing on for a little bit and then went with it. when these titles were created, we immediately as fans got what we wanted, which doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
We got that epic Sasha Bailey moment. It felt fantastic.
Yes.
These titles aren't legitimate titles yet. Holders are what legitimize them in our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no chase to them. Right now, the Iconics are such hot heels, whether it's the wrong way or the right way, they have that right amount of heat. So you put them on them, the titles help make them, help
Legitimize
establish them.
Them having the belt
as
is
true
similar
heels.
to Carmella having the
And
women's
now-
belt last year.
And
Yeah,
now the
agreed.
chase is on.
Yeah.
Because we want the belts to come off them. So
It's going to make them more legit. That's
It,
really
it
what
was
comes down to.
it's the same as Carmella having the women's belt last year. You know,
Yeah, and-
Carmella didn't belong in any of those WrestleMania matches with the women, but her having the belt, all of a sudden, now she was in the picture with Charlotte and Becky and all these people because she had the belt. Same with Jinder Mahal. Jinder Mahal really didn't belong in feuds with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton, but because he had the belt, I mean, that's what made him. When he didn't have the belt anymore, he was back to being Jinder Mahal.
as wrestling fans, sometimes the most important part of the storytelling aspect is the chase. That's what we want. I mean, we saw that with the Kofi match. We've
Yeah.
seen that with Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. We enjoy that chase. So to put them on Sasha and Bailey right away, we didn't have a chance to get that chase. The titles were kind of where they belonged.
Yeah.
And now we get to see that. Plus, titles changing hands also will legitimize the title. That's what they did with the UK title. If it's not on different people's waists, people are going to start to take it less serious. So,
True.
in essence, it was good that the UK title came off of Dunn. I also cautioned WWE that because we saw 7 of 9 titles change hands at WrestleMania.
They gave the fans what they wanted.
And they want and so
Your
they're
fans,
ushering
not me.
they're ushering in an era of change. I just caution them that title changes don't necessarily make a good product. It still
Not
goes
necessarily.
along with, and I'll say it again, storytelling, solid products, good cards, wrestling. All of that's important, not just a title change. And I feel like maybe that's what they're doing, and I'm nervous.
Quick question: what do you make of the fact that the next day, all the media, like they do after WrestleMania, whether it be on ESPN or on CBS Sports and radio in the morning, what do you make of it being Becky Lynch, obviously, but Kofi Kingston and not Seth Rollins doing all the media appearances on Monday morning?
I don't make anything of it. Kofi's on fire right now. I mean, I'm okay with it because Seth gets enough publicity as it is, I feel like. So, I mean, Kofi's been doing it for so long. I mean, obviously, we've seen the story. We know the story. We've watched the story all these, over a decade. So, let him shine, And to me, and, I know you didn't like, I know we disagree on it a little bit. I thought it was one of the better WrestleManias.
I just feel that maybe I feel in this aspect, we all knew Becky Lynch was going to win. That's a fan favorite.
Yeah.
So with the 2 men's title matches, I felt one of them should have gone to the heel. Just one of them. But
Vince even said, he's like, we're going to give the fans what they want.
But they're probably getting.
And we got to be careful. You're right. We have to be careful with it, no doubt.
Because when the fans get what they want, the problem is we lose the chase. This isn't a movie. This isn't the end and
No.
that's it. We have continuing storylines. That's why I was partially a fan of Brock Lesnar. Everyone hates Brock Lesnar, but I liked that constant chase.
Stop with Brock Lesnar, for the love of God.
Can
we stop with Brock Lesnar? And I'm just I'm gonna pull a page out of Seth Rollins' playbook, so to speak. He said, "Yeah, stay in Vegas. We don't need you. We don't need you."
But
and
I like
with
that. I'm always, and I was actually on the way home from WrestleMania. I was talking Mania, and my personal opinion when it comes to WWE, comes to wrestling in general, I think the faces should win 30% of the time. You need them to win. Obviously, they can't lose every time, but you need them to win. You need the heels to win. Or if I created AEW, let's say, and I would have the heels win overall wrestling, the main show, the pay-per-views, the weekly TV shows we had. The statistics would show the heels winning 70% of the time, because
it's not bad.
when the faces win,
Yeah.
when
That's
the
fair.
faces
That's fair.
win,
That's fair number.
it's like when you go to the casino. The winning is more exciting because it's done a lot less. But it is
True.
done, so
True.
you know it's possible. You do hear the bells going off at the casino,
That's
so
why
you
the
know that
casinos,
winning is possible.
Yeah, that's why
but it
people keep coming back
happens
to casinos. Like,
not so much,
Yeah.
which makes it so that when you do win, it's a bigger deal. If you won 70% of the time, the excitement, I guess, you would lose that excitement of winning.
And
I'm a
this-
sucker for face versus face, though, because it kind of switches it up. So when you go heel versus face, bad guy versus good guy, you go back to like the territory days. And that was something that was always done. Sometimes, like, I'm a face versus face. So you start to think about, and I don't know if it was just WrestleMania 6, like our childhood, Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
Yes.
You didn't know who to root for. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it was splitting hairs.
it was split.
Yeah.
So, like, I look in the future, I'm like, so where does Seth Rollins go from here? Where does Kofi go from here? I honestly couldn't answer what's next in the book for Kofi. I could see him going up against heel. Seth Rollins, I'm hoping this is a face versus face program, and we're going to get him and Roman Reigns in the spirit of good competition, maybe at like a SummerSlam.
We'll
and
see.
I want to see that huge face versus face match.
My same statistics.
Face versus faces. I like it. I don't like it all the time, but it's good to mix things up once in a while. That's the way I
My
look at it.
statistics for the face versus heel thing is also pretty much similar to what I feel about championship matches. I feel the championship should retain 70% of the time and change probably 30% of the time.
See, this
so
is-
that
this
again,
year
it's
was
a bigger
different.
deal. So if there's 12 pay-per-views a year, I feel that the championship should change hands 3 times in that year. 3 or
Okay,
4
so-
times.
so here's-
pretty much once every 3 months. So it's not just a foregone conclusion that you're going to a pay-per-view. You're going to see a new champion.
So Jared, to your point then, so since WrestleMania had so many changes and we got the fans got what they want, here's what you're gonna, by your ratios, which I think they're fair numbers, you're gonna see a lot of heels come SummerSlam. That's the SummerSlam, Survivor Series. You're gonna see a lot of heels with the belts.
That could be it. I mean, you said it, we need longer title reigns.
Balance out.
Because it legitimizes the title. I simply blame, I don't even know if I blame like WWE writers. I don't know who to blame for this.
I always.
I would blame our attention spans, that we just can't. We complain about the product, and I don't necessarily mean us in this room, but they complain about what they want, and titles don't feel legitimate. But then you try to keep the title on somebody for 7 months, and this is boring, this is terrible, when are we going to see something different? And it's just like, you go back to when you talk about the golden era and everything else, you had champions for usually a calendar year and or more.
Bruno was
And
a champion.
everybody
yeah, I mean,
for
everyone
12
complains
years.
about Brock Lesnar. Hulk Hogan defended the belt 3 times a year.
Yeah.
Different era. It's a different era though.
Well, I know it is different era.
Different
there was less wrestling. I understand there was less
Yes,
pay-per-views.
there was
But
less.
but that's the thing. I feel that with all that we have, we need to have something that kind of still makes importance. If there was 150 football games a year, I would still only want 1 Super Bowl champion that year. I just because there's more product doesn't mean I want more dilution.
Well, Jared, here's
I want there to be
here's my-
something. That's
here's
why
my
Brock
thing, though.
Lesnar was a breath of fresh air to me, because there is so much wrestling.
He's not
that
a
it
breath.
was
He's
nice to see
he's not a breath
something
of fresh
different.
air though. To me, he needs to go. Like to me, as a wrestling enthusiast, I like the champion there every single week.
But
AJ
that
Styles,
gives-
AJ
you like
Styles,
that.
best in the world. He was there every single week.
Did you get what you want? Is Brock gone?
I'm happy.
There was some.
I'm happy.
There was some.
I don't think
truth,
he's done.
There was some
I'm
truth
happy.
to this match ending, starting early. One, how awesome was it? Heyman interrupted Hogan.
That was cool.
That was
Hogan's
awesome.
Hogan's kind of.
Yeah, he
He's like,
he
whatever.
thought about it. He wasn't going to do nothing.
He's like,
about
whatever.
It.
He's
So,
like- he's
so
like,
he knew
whatever.
he knew who was coming through the curtain after Heyman.
Yeah.
He thought twice. So, but Heyman, in the way that Heyman does, verbally sells us the match, sells us this product. And how awesome was it? You know what? If my client's not the main event, then we're going to do this now. We're going to get it over with, and we're going to get on the plane and get out of here.
And go to
And I
Vegas, bye.
full-heartedly believe that they did that.
Oh, they absolutely
Lesnar
did.
was not in that arena more than 10 minutes after that match.
No, he got
ended.
enough to maybe take a quick shower and then.
He did the job, and that's what it felt like. It felt like it was such a honoring a contract. He came out, he did the job, he was ushered away.
Nothing extra.
And we didn't see him pop up on
here's
Raw
the thing,
again.
You know, I feel the fans made him like that. I feel that he didn't
See, no,
necessarily. I feel like they fed
that's
into
how he
that.
is, though. That's how he is.
I feel
He's
that is
always
how he
been that
is
way.
to an extent.
He's been that way forever. He's
Well, not going-
and here's the thing. Hopefully Brock doesn't come to Syracuse, New York, because I don't have anything bad.
I feel
I
that
don't
as soon,
I don't
I feel
dislike
that the
him.
fans made him. I feel like that was the deal.
He's not
If you remember,
approachable. He's
maybe
not
like 2
approachable,
years.
Jared.
But if you remember, like 2 years ago, when Paul Heyman and him were feeding into that, all of a sudden for the first time. Remember, Brock Lesnar never mentioned anything about being part-time. He was just kind of not there a lot, and the fans kind of brought that to the attention that he took it out of himself. Remember, he was turning on Paul Heyman and said, like, I don't want to be in this stupid city. I'm not getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, he never mentioned that in his previous things, that he didn't want to be there or that he was there for the paycheck. And then when the fans were calling him out that you're just here for the check, you're a part-timer, is when he started to be that. When he started to grab Paul Heyman and say, like, let's go out there so I can get the hell out of here because I don't want to be here any longer than I have to.
Well,
Unless I'm getting
Jared,
paid.
he's
Get some heat out of it.
been like that for a long time though. Like there's been lots of stories where like fan interactions with Brock Lesnar are not good, and I'm not saying it as a bad thing because a lot of guys like Dean Ambrose, for example, they want to live a private life. They don't want to be bothered, which I have no problem with that. He wants to stay on his farm up in Canada. I have no problem with that. I don't dislike the man. I just, as a wrestling fan, to me, I just don't like the way what he brings to the table for the product. I mean, if it's a special occasion, like you get the nostalgia kind of feel, maybe he comes back at WrestleMania in a year or two, fine. But I don't want the belt on him. I want him to be like a special occasion, like it's like Triple H versus Batista. I want him like that. I have nothing against Brock Lesnar. I just think the gimmick has ran its course. I'm done with Brock Lesnar. Go to the UFC. You're gonna get your ass kicked by DC. Because I don't like DC. We've talked about this, Jared, on many occasions. I'm a Bones Jones guy, but DC will wipe the floor with Brock Lesnar. That's a side note. But to my next point, real quick, the intrigue is if Brock is gone, who's the next Paul Heyman guy or gal? That's curious.
I was, and now I don't know. I wanted to see a female in general, and I don't want it to be Rousey. I wanted it to be Baszler. I wanted her to come up and be the next Heyman girl.
I like that.
She has that feel.
Yeah, so. She's like the Brock Lesnar females. So to speak, she has that presence, I guess.
Yeah.
She's got that presence. I don't think and here's the thing, I think she's just stronger on the mic than Brock, because Brock I don't think is very strong on the mic. He never has. It's not a strong suit. Just let him get in the ring and do his thing. Shayna, she's okay on the mic. I don't think she's extraordinary, but I think a mouthpiece like Paul Heyman with Shayna Baszler, I like it. I think that's a good move.
And they can feed off of each other. Because Heyman would probably be even better if he wasn't an entire mouthpiece. Sometimes you do your best work when there's somebody else in the room or somebody standing alongside you, and you can feed off their points or feed off anything. And she has just enough of that talent for them to feed off of each other.
Yeah.
And they have that same amount of arrogance. I want it to be a female wrestler, just for something different. And I think that Baszler fits that role.
Now let me ask you this. I mean, if they go in the direction of a male superstar, throw a name out. What do you got? Jared, and you want to throw a name? And I think Shayna Baszler is perfect for the female side. I think you hit the nail on the head on that. Jared, do you agree with that? I think that's perfect.
You'd have to repackage Drew, but possibly a Drew. Not the package that he is right now. He would need some sort of repackaging.
Which I don't see happening anytime.
I don't either.
Because what he's doing right now is really good. I'm happy for Drew. I mean, I remember the days when he was in 3MB. It's crazy to think that it's like, Jinder was nothing for the longest time. Drew, they were laughing stocks. I mean, and then Heath. We just leave Heath. He's fine. Yeah. He's fine. But those two, Jinder's been a champion since that run 3MB years ago, and Drew is on the path to being one of the big. He's already one of the marquee names in the business right now. I mean, I do like that. I like the Paul Heyman aspect to that. I mean, honestly, I'd like to see it on like the guy that I think is, because I don't think this guy's strong enough on the mic yet. Lars.
Yeah, we saw a return of Lars this week. I mean,
he's a big opposing force. We don't. I mean, you see what you see is what you get with him. So I think maybe. I mean, that's kind of out of the blue because Lars just made his debut, which we'll get to.
I can see it. Yeah. Before we move on to Raw, I lied to you. Charlotte's helicopter entrance was my favorite WrestleMania entrance of all times. So it was.
I will say this much about it.
I'm partially kidding. But like, what a queen was that? Was that pre-recorded or was the helicopter over the stadium?
Yeah, I gotta say it was pre-recorded.
It was pre-recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have to say that it was pre-recorded. I feel if it wasn't pre-recorded, they would have done more for us to at least see the helicopter. I believe there was a helicopter flying over. I saw something. The airport's very close. So the airport's very close. So planes flying over happened all night. I saw tons of planes and helicopters fly by all night outside of just the original flyovers. But I did see a helicopter flying around by that time, but they hyped up the music in there of the helicopter sound so much so that we couldn't hear if there was actually a real helicopter outside because they were blasting the helicopter noise on the speakers. But either way, let's get to Raw and SmackDown and let's make this a little bit, let's speed things up.
Sure.
Raw, SmackDown, some takeaways. One thing I noticed, no NXT call-ups. I mean, we had obviously Lars.
Under 3 million views. One of the lowest rated, lowest viewed post WrestleMania Raw.
I thought it was a great afterwards because while we didn't have a lot of call-ups, we had still a lot of surprises. It was, some returns and stuff like that, but not the Ember Moon's like in past with the Finn Balor.
Ember
like
Moon
past.
hasn't been around. I mean, she's been injured, but I mean, overall are we kind of going both shows here? Just kind of just wrap it up.
I'm going. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say this. I love the fact that the Hardys are champions again in the tag team division. That was cool. I like the fact that Heath and Zack Ryder did not lose it to the Revival the next night. I'm glad they're making it look a little bit legitimate. And hey, I gotta say, Hawkins has a winning streak going. How about that?
That's what I wanted to say. I wrote down in my notes, Hawkins and Ryder retain, so therefore the Revival is completely buried. They're 100% buried. Get out of your contract, head over to AEW, showcase your talent like we know that you have.
Top guy talent.
On a side note, with Hawkins and Ryder, it's impressive because they went from nothing. I don't believe that WWE had any intentions anytime soon to make them nothing. They grabbed that brass ring, like Vince had mentioned years ago, that so many superstars hadn't done. They went outside of the product and they made their own popularity. That Major Wrestling Figure podcast is huge now. They have merchandise. It's close to being one of the #1 podcasts on iTunes. They're doing live shows. They're bringing in other people. They created such a large fan base doing them outside of the product that WWE had to acknowledge them.
Absolutely.
And they did it.
And they want to cash in too.
And they're cashing in. So they're going to ride that wave that Hawkins and Ryder have created for themselves. I think that it's awesome. I hate Zack Ryder. Almost hate him on a personal level, even though I don't know him.
Okay.
Hate him as a wrestler.
So let's real quick. I know we're going kind of the fast break here. Real quick. Why don't you like Zack Ryder?
It would have to do a lot with. Do you listen to the podcast?
I honestly, I've seen clips. Not much.
So yeah, we'll spin off. I'll sum it up quick so we can move on. It's the overall douchebag vibe.
Okay.
If you listen to the podcast, you'll get it. I love Hawkins. Hawkins is probably one of my favorite wrestlers, which is hard to do when you lose. So my recommendation into Ryder is just hold on tight to his coattails because he's the one carrying you.
Let's say now I've looked at this pretty much and saw. I won't lie. So I had somebody else do some little research for me. But it seems like those vignettes. What do you think about what appear to be the Bray Wyatt return vignettes with what I thought was a raptor ends up being what many are saying a buzzard.
Okay. As long as it's not the gobbledygooker.
Yeah, that's what it made me think of.
I'm glad he's coming back. I have
but
to say,
major repackage of Bray Wyatt. It looks like coming back.
I'm okay with that. And Undertaker.
What a fun segment.
That was interesting.
What a fun segment.
That was cool.
We didn't have a lot of returns, but we had
awesome
things like that. We didn't have NXT call-ups, but we had things like that. I mean, overall, I thought, even though we had NXT call-ups, I went to the Raw last year after Mania. I felt this was a better Raw after Mania last year.
Lacey Evans with the crazy right hand.
Yeah.
And this is what you get.
Right, you know?
So this is what you get after WrestleMania. Talking to some other people about this is what you get after WrestleMania. It's the start of a new season. You have these new big champions like Becky Lynch. You can't immediately put them into another big-time matches. You got to then it's like the start of sports. The Boston Red Sox, after they win the World Series, they don't start off by going and defending the World Series right away. You start slow, back up, you rebuild.
So now they're losing a lot right now.
But with WWE, this is what you get after Brock Lesnar, let's say, wins the championship after WrestleMania 19. His first defense is against Hardcore Holly. I mean, that's what you're seeing here with Lacey Evans. You're not putting her right back against Flair in an Iron Man match. You're putting her against some lower talent to kind of give her reign some legitimacy. Daniel Bryan, well, who did he defend the belt against after he won at WrestleMania 30? It wasn't against Triple H in a Hell in a Cell match. It was against like Kane and it was kind of silly things like that to kind of build him back up so that when he's Kofi Kingston, Seth Rollins, when these guys are still champions at SummerSlam, then you can bring him against somebody better.
Both
but right
of them
now
worked so well. It was a believable brawl. Just that little tussle and being broken up by security was one of the most believable build-up brawls to a feud than anything that Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky did. It was too much over the top. Some of it seemed faked. It seemed a little too rehearsed. I really like the direction they're going. Sami Zayn and Finn Balor put on an awesome match. Even better, Sami Zayn had an awesome heel promo.
It didn't work out so well with that crowd. It should have waited a week because everyone was like, he was, belittling the crowd. At the same time, the crowd is like,
just so happy to have him back.
It'd be better because they're in Canada next week too. So.
Yeah, his hometown, Montreal.
Yeah.
If Sami Zayn plays this right, which I think he will do, he's going to have an awesome run coming up. Keep him away from Kevin Owens. Yeah. We've seen it too many times. Yeah. Do not bring him into the mix.
I think it's
keep
Kevin
those
Owens.
Two as far away from each other as possible. Let them be their own individuals.
And I'll say this: I think we're planting the seeds. The whole Kevin Owens and Drew McIntyre deal. I think we're going to see a feud there.
Yeah, Drew. I mean, we're obviously seeing the shakeup next week, so I don't think this week had any sort of bearing on what we're getting.
No,
Maybe Samoa
no,
Joe.
no.
I feel we're going to maybe switch some of the championships. I feel Samoa Joe's going to take that IC belt to Raw, and I feel that the U.S. champion is going to move over.
Yeah, you're going to see that's a natural.
Or sorry, the U.S. champion of Samoa Joe is going to move to Raw.
Yeah.
The IC champion of Finn Balor might move over to SmackDown.
I think it's you usually see the IC in the United States. They usually flip.
And I see that we'll continue that feud with Braun Strowman and Samoa Joe as well over there. I mean, overall, Raw and
Braun
SmackDown.
Strowman, Lars, that's what I need to see.
Amen.
I don't see that happening right now. But
No,
eventually.
it needs to happen.
I mean,
New Day
overall,
didn't turn on
Raw
Kofi.
and SmackDown, good. Overall, just an amazing weekend of everything. A good weekend overall of professional wrestling. I mean, whether you got what you want, that's the best thing about wrestling. It's not the Super Bowl. You don't have complaints. Even when the people you don't want to win or don't want to lose happen to lose or happen to win, it's still you get what you want. I mean, and that's essentially, what I got here with wrestling. And that's why I like wrestling sometimes more than I like sports because, while I wanted Brock Lesnar to win, it's not like, you're watching a football game and you want to root for a specific team, and if the team gets blown out 46-0, you're not entertained. In this case, you're still entertained regardless.
Yeah.
I went to WrestleMania knowing that obviously Becky Lynch was going to win.
Well,
that kind of
that
thing.
was kinda obvious.
So either way, it was entertainment regardless. So busy week, great week. We'll probably have even more WrestleMania stuff to talk about as it goes on. We have a Superstar Shakeup next week, 2 nights back to back in Montreal. AEW is just around the corner. We'll obviously have a lot to talk about when it comes to that.
Last thing I want to say, Dustin.
You can find
quick.
Dustin. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say thank you guys again for having me in. Seriously, to go from a listener to a guest has just been fantastic. To be able to come in and talk shop, talk about the business that I love, I honestly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So
we appreciate you
Dustin,
coming
you can find him on Twitter at QStown Collect. You can find him on Instagram at QStown_collector. You can find Brandon on Twitter at Icebreaker21. You can find me on Twitter at KRockJared, as well as on Instagram at that name. And you can find the show at Heel to the Face. Follow us on Twitter. That's all you need to know. Maybe next week we'll have a Twitter question of the week to ponder over as well. Let's talk about the Superstar Shakeup. Until then, we will see you next week.